Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Power BI webinar. My name is Kaylin Kelly. I've been here with IBIS for going on about 4 years now, and I've worked with BI in some form or another pretty much the whole time I've been here. I'm primarily a GP consultant, but I've also played around a little bit with AX and especially the reporting side of both. So I am quite familiar with some of the reporting options available to you. So I'm excited today to talk about Power BI in case anyone is interested in looking more at this solution to see if it'll fit their needs. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with Power BI. So the first thing we're going to look at is our agenda. So first we're going to talk about what BI is. What Power BI is specifically in Excel as well as Office 365. And then we're going to take a little hands-on approach and actually see what it looks like live and in person. So I like to start with what Power BI and BI are, just to compare and contrast the difference. It's hard to know exactly the level of experience of everyone attending a webinar. So I'm just going to take the approach that we need to kind of recap anything that we already know. So apologies if you already know some of this information, but hopefully you can pick up some tidbits. So BI is business intelligence, converting raw data into reliable and meaningful metrics for analysis. I just really want to emphasize that BI is not necessarily putting data on a pinwheel and showing it off to your friends. BI is something that actually gets you to a point where you can make a decision, where you can look at data. Just because it has power in the front of the name doesn't mean it is more helpful to you than any other kind of BI. If you're using GP, a smart list is considered business intelligence because you are retrieving data out of the system. If you're working with AX, just exporting to an Excel form from a form in AX into Excel would be considered BI because you are retrieving information. You are not entering data. So then what is Power BI? Well, Power BI is a suite of products offered by Microsoft. So if you are not familiar with everything that's included in the suite, these are all of the bullet points. So it's categorized into 3 sections. And each one of these is a tool that can be used sort of standalone. Some of them are a little bit dependent on others, but for the most part they are separate entities. And you can use them in conjunction with other tools. So Power BI in Excel is what you would use when you're just starting to work through creating a report. You're trying to figure out what kind of data you're interested in looking at. Then when we upgrade to our Power BI for Office 365, this is where you get to take all of the data you have and start collaborating with others, give other people in your organization a view into the reports that you've created. Or if you are an end user that wants to consume the reports, this is where you would go. And then there are IT infrastructure services. We're not really going to talk about these today, but just so you know that they're included in the overall suite. You need to take into account what you need to do to set up Office 365. And then there's a data management gateway, which allows you to connect your SQL Server straight up to the cloud to allow for some more on-demand reporting. And then the BI Admin Center is where you can make some decisions about how the organizational site is set up. All right, so if we go back for a minute just to talk about our Excel, Power BI in Excel is where you're going to discover, analyze, and visualize data. So this is going to be where you actually take your data sources, you look at the data, you analyze the data, and you create content that can then be published onto Power BI for Office 365. So Office 365 is a cloud-based environment where users can collaborate, they can add their insights, they can access reports, They can access reports from anywhere using the mobile BI, and they can get some answers and figure out exactly what those reports look like. Now, Office 365 does require Excel 2013, and most of these tools are available in 2013, if not exclusively. So if you're still on Office 2003, you might need to consider an upgrade. So if you want Power BI for Office 365 and Power Query and Power View, you need to get Power BI for Office 365, as well as Office 365 Pro Plus or Office Professional Plus 2013. And so that's where you'd be able to get some of your add-ons, the Power Query, the Power Maps, and all of the pretty colored boxes here. All right, so that was a little bit of a long-winded slide for a handful of pretty colors. So let's talk about Power BI. So this slide is specifically related to Power BI for Excel. So first I need to figure out where my data is. And that's where I'm going to use the power of Power Query. And I'm going to connect to SQL, to the web, to a text file, anywhere that my data is currently located. And then I can go either straight, if I follow my purple line, straight into some visualization, or I can go into PowerPivot, which is where I'm going to actually determine what the data is, maybe make some relationships, take my SQL connection and tie it back to my text file and make some relationships so I can see how the data reacts and relates to itself. And then I can go to my visualization, which are my Power Maps, my Power Views, the ones that are actually cool looking. And if you've seen any Microsoft demos, they love to jump straight into the Power Maps and the Power Views because they're very fun looking. All right, so I'm going to start here with Power Query. Power Query is usually the starting place. You don't have to start here, but most of the time you will. This is where you can discover and connect to data from public or corporate data sources. As you can see, there's at least 23 different sources. Microsoft is continuously adding to this list. I actually think I added an item without increasing my number. There are 24 listed there because CRM Online is a recent addition to the list. Power Query allows you to import data from these external sources. You can shape your data using the query editor, and you can add or remove a couple of query steps depending on what your data looks like. These steps are going to be created every time a change is made, so you can kind of look to see what's been done to the data. And the calculations that you can add are going to be in the M language. You can also sort and filter and group data here. So I'm going to flip over now to my desktop to show where this is located in Excel. So in my Excel, I have a ribbon for Power Query. Power Query is an additional Excel download, so it's not going to be included by default in Excel 2013, but you can download it and add it. If you have downloaded it and you can't seem to find it, you might need to enable it. And to do that, you would go to the File, Options, Add-ins, and then down under Manage, it's listed under the COM add-ins. If you select Go, you'll see that there are a handful of items here that I have checked. I have PowerPivot, Power Map, Power Query, and Power View. So all these things are listed in the COM add-ins. So you may already have them in your current version of Excel, they're just not turned on. So this is where you would go to enable them. So you would check the box and then say OK. You may need to close Excel and reopen it, and then you will see your ribbons on the top. So in Power Query, I have the option to get external data from several different places. I can get it from the web, which will allow me to enter a URL, from a file, which can come from Excel, CSV, text, or several different locations from a folder. I can get it from a database, from Azure, or from multiple other sources, including CRM, online, Facebook, Active Directory, a lot of different locations there. Or I can go to my recent sources to see all of the sources that I have used in the past. If there's one that I use a lot, I can pull it up from here. I also have the option over here on my Power BI, it's a little redundant, but my data catalog queries. If I select that, it will show the data catalog queries that I currently have saved up on my Power BI site in Office 365. So if I save a query up to my Office 365, I can pull it back down into Excel whenever I want to. And right now I am signed in as my current user. I'm using my IBIS Inc. account. All right, so if I have a source already, I'm going to pull up a source that I've used before. I'm going to pull up my Dynamics GP warehouse. This is a SQL database from my source. Since it's a file I created a while ago, it's not participating. I'm going to actually use from a file from Excel. It's going to be located on my desktop in my sample file. And these are some demo files with stock information. So over here on my navigator, I can see that I have an Excel document. If I hover over it, it's going to give me a preview of what's included. So if I didn't mean to pick that file, my preview will show me if I've selected the incorrect file, and I can close it without a problem. And I can load it. I can either load it to the worksheet I'm on or to another worksheet. So I'm going to load this table to the existing worksheet that I'm in right now. And over here you'll see that it's processing this data. It's not a small data set, so I'm just going to wait a minute for it to continue processing. Okay, and you'll see by my table changing colors that it's finished. So now I have this entire data set that I can do a couple of things on. I can query if I wanted to send this to the data catalog. I could send this information up to my Office 365 location, and I can share it with just myself if I don't want to give it to anyone else, or I can share it with the entire enterprise, which would be my company, or I can share it with a specific group of people or a specific person. All right, so I'm going to share it with everyone, and I'm just going to send it up to be available because I found this data set. It was local, and now I'm going to share it with the entire organization instead of trying to email it to them every time they ask for it. All right, I can also come into here and I can change my properties. If I wanted to give it a new name or a new description, I can do that here. And then I have an additional piece of information from a file. So I also have the NASDAQ information. And from here, if I wanted to load that information as well, I can load this into my worksheet. I believe this might even be a larger set of data. So based on the number of rows, you can see that these aren't small, and I'm sure your corporation has some rather large worksheets that people like to deal with on a regular basis. All right, and then all my data comes in. So I have my NASDAQ and my New York Stock Exchange information. So from here, if I wanted to, I could combine this information. I can combine my NASDAQ and my New York Stock Exchange information. And I know that my columns seem a little off here, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to fix that. Because in this data, I can see that my first row is a header. So I'm going to I'm going to edit this information. And this will pull up my query. And from here is where I can actually do some information. I can modify some information. I can add and remove rows. I would be able to use the advanced editor to change the query language if I needed to. And up here I have an option that I can use the first row as headers, which will use this information and pop my first row up to the headers. So everything looks good to me. I'm going to save and close it. And I know I need to do the same with my other worksheet. So I'm going to go over here to my New York Stock Exchange, and I'm going to edit this item. And I'm going to use the first row as headers for this as well. And save it and close. All right, and I'll just give those a second to refresh after I made my change. And then from here I can merge my two files if I want. I can combine them together. I know that my stock symbols should be the same or at least similar. And then it's going to evaluate if I'm able to match these or not. And I probably should have chosen a smaller data set for my example. But after this finishes processing, it would pop up with a list of the two data sets that have everything in common. Everything would be in one single place. Okay, and now we'll see that I have a merge query that has resulted as a combination of my two files. So I think we're going to check back on this guy later. I'm going to flip back over to my PowerPoint so that we can see what happens next. All right, so after I'm done getting all my Power Query information, then I can move on over to PowerPivot, which is where I can take data model and change some stuff about what I have. So I can combine, create a relationship between multiple sources. I can add calculations, KPIs, which will be in the DEX language, as well as hierarchies or anything else that I need to add to my data to make it more meaningful. All right, so after this is finished, I'm just going to load and close this information. So now I have 3 data sources to choose from. Now I have the option to go to my PowerPivot tab. And from here, I can look at my data model and I can manage what's included in my data model from here. This will open a new window for PowerPivot. And from here, I have the option to include data from similar sources that I did for my PowerPivot. If I choose existing connections and scroll down to the bottom, I'll see that I already have those connections in my workbook, so I can start from there. So I'm going to look at my merged data. I'm going to open that connection. Excuse me, I'm going to start with just the NASDAQ. My apologies, I went a little bit out of order there. So I'm going to use my existing connections that come from my analysis services. So I'm just going to use my design and pull open my payables analysis cube. If anyone has seen any of my webinars in the past, this is one of my favorite things. And I'm just going to pull in the category information as well as an account number, just to demonstrate PowerPivot. So from here, I have a whole bunch of data that I can now turn into a PowerPivot. So I'm going to create a PowerPivot table into a new worksheet. And now you'll see that I have all of this query information to choose from, not just my source that I pulled in from my PowerPivot, but also my Power Query sources. So if I create, all right, so from here I can include my category, as well as my account information and my total payables. And I can slice and dice the data here. I can add a KPI if I want. If I wanted to add my new KPI or manage KPIs that already exist for this information. All right, so that's just to give you kind of an overview. All right, and then I'm going to jump over here to see what else we have available in our Power BI for Excel. Next option is Power View. In my Power View, I have the ability to use Power Query, Power Pivot, or just regular Excel data to create some Power View charts and graphs, and this can help create some high-level dashboarding functionality. All right, so if I'm looking at this data right here, I would be able to go to my Insert ribbon, and that's where my Power View and Power Map are located. So these things are not necessarily hinging upon your data coming from Power Query or Power Pivot. I can go straight to Power View from any kind of data that I have. So if I insert Power View worksheet, I have my queries to choose from over here. And if I had regular data in Excel, that would also be available. And then I can start to build my report from here. If I wanted to see my categories and my payables expense, I can move this and create a title, and from here create a dashboard. And we'll see some already built dashboards when we head over to Office 365. And then from here, I'd also be able to choose how my data looks if I wanted to do any kind of filtering on a specific category. If I just wanted to look at assets and I wanted that to be my top line, I can rearrange my view here and move this guy to any location. So you can see how quickly I can start to build a dashboard. And then if I take a look at my next item, which is Power Map, Power Map also can be used with regular Excel data as a source. It uses geocentric and temporal mapping. So that's going to be any locational piece of information. So for this example, I'm going to go to Smart List from GP and just export this report I have of invoices for a customer based on their default state information. And if I export this to Excel, I have a list of information that I can now insert a Power Map. And from here, I have my state selected, so it automatically knows that state is going to be a location. And from here, I can change my map in any way that I want. I can flatten out the map if I prefer it to just be a non-circular map. And then from here, I can include anything like the document. And then I have my states located already, so I can click Next. And from here, I want to show my state information based on the document amount. So my height is going to be the sum of sales. So you can see I have some bars now that illustrate based on each state the amount of sales. So this isn't really what I want to see. Maybe I want to see a 2D chart instead, right next to my map. I can include that so I can see that Minnesota is my highest sales state. I can also continue to play with my map a little bit. Maybe I want to go back to my circular map and kind of rotate it around if I want to get a better look at my sales. I also have control over my themes if you want to make it very loud to include in a PowerPoint. I can also find a specific location if I wanted to search directly to one location. There's a lot you can do here. Since I have a lot to cover, I'm not going to show you every single item in here, just to show you that it's available. I can also do a capture screen from here if I wanted to just take a static moment in time of this report. I wanted to add it to my email that I'm drafting to one of the salespeople in a region, or adding it to a PowerPoint slide. If I had time frame included over here, like document date, I can include it, and I can show, play a tour of sales over time. And you can watch my lines grow over time, my sales increased. And then I can create this video and share it with others. I just wanted to re-emphasize that this is just Smart List data. I didn't have to spend a lot of time creating a PowerPivot or a Power Query report to get to this information. Okay, so now I've created all the reports that I have in the entire world. I'm done with my reporting. That would be nice, wouldn't it? So next thing to do is go to Power BI in the cloud, which is Office 365. And in a nutshell, it is a home for your reports. It's somewhere to store your reports so they're not located on Linda's hard drive that no one can access. These are shared out on a general cloud-based system that everyone can access and view. So the first thing to look at are Power BI sites. This is a collaborative location to share and view reports from your team. From here you can create specific folders and feature reports that will be helpful for everyone. You can also have shared queries here and commonly asked questions based on some of your documents. You can also include thumbnail previews of each of the reports so you can quickly identify what report you want to see. And you can also use this to send favorites to others. So I went to my Power BI site, my Office 365 account, and on my tiles I went to my Power BI location. So from here I have my featured reports up here, as well as any shared documents down below. So you can tell on these names that they were shared by multiple people. First thing I'd like to point out here is in the featured reports, if I click on this item, it's going to open the report inside of my web browser. And this is a Power view, and down here on the bottom I can see all the tabs that are included in my document. I have my customer list of information and the census data as my sources, and that is generating my Power view. So from here I can see that I'm specifically looking at my Los Angeles area to see my customer information here. So if this is a really important piece of area for me to keep an eye on, I can view here my customer information as well as some splash circles to view the impact of those customers. So if I like this report a lot, I would be able to save this as a favorite. So I'm just going to go back to my team site. And I already have it saved as favorite, so I'm going to favorite a different one. And if I favorite, it's going to add it to my Power BI favorites. So if I go to my Power BI site, this is specifically mine. And this is where I have all of my favorites bookmarked here. So I don't need to go to my team site and hunt for the ones that I like every time. My Power BI site shows just the reports I care about. I also want to point out here that I have an income statement by divisions report. And if I look at this report, it's actually an exported management reporter report. So this is not a Power Query or a Power BI or any of the Power Suite items. This is simply an Excel document that I have uploaded to the shared team site, and I am able to share this with others. And I can look at all the different tabs for all my different divisions from here. If I go back to my PowerPoint, the next item we're going to talk about is my query data management. So from here I can share and manage queries and data sources, and I can share them with others using my data catalog, and I can share them with the entire company and utilize the online search feature in Power Query to retrieve any of them. All right, so if we flip back again, so if I'm looking at my Power BI site, I have a data tab, and in here I can see the information that I have uploaded to the source. I can look at my query analytics to see how many people have queried against the data sources that I've put up there, so I can see if something is actually important to the rest of my organization. Under my queries, I can see everything that I've loaded. You can see here that my NASDAQ exchange information is loaded from when I clicked on my Add to Catalog earlier. And it's not available yet because I haven't finished adding information for it. I just loaded it to the site, but I haven't finished allowing it to be accessible. Under my data sources, I have 2 data sources that are specifically my own. If I show my data sources to view everyone's, I can see everyone's in the company. Over here you can see that some of them were created by me, there were some by other users. In this one I modified, so it's hard to tell, but it's actually by a coworker. So using these sources, if I have a lot available in my list, I'd be able to go to Excel and start using a new report. And I know I want to do a query. I want to do a query off of a shared query from my query management location. So I'm just going to do an online search. In my online search, I know that a coworker put something up there about Super Bowl information. So I can either publicly search the internet. You can see that I'll come up with things like Wikipedia or other news locations. Wikipedia is often the most available item here because they do put their data in kind of a chart format that's easy to access in Excel. I can also look at my organization, which is a link sent up there by one of my coworkers that he has shared with the company. So from here I can choose this and I can load it to a table in this existing worksheet that I'm in, and I'd be able to start using this data source that someone else had generated. So they did all the work. They created the query, they made some modifications to it, they saved it up to my Office 365 site, and I'm just pulling it down. And from here, I can start doing some analysis on it. I can create a PowerPivot, I can create a Power View or a Power Map, or anything else that would be beneficial to me. All right, and the next thing to talk about is mobile BI. I don't have a good way to demo this right now, but you can download a demo from Microsoft to show what it would look like on your phone, or you can go to the App Store and download it from there. What this allows you to do is access your dashboards from a mobile site. There is an app currently out there for the Windows phones, but you can also use it from any mobile device using the HTML5 view of the data. The Windows phones allow you to actually interact with the data, so that's a little bit of a benefit there. It's currently supported in 9 different languages. And another thing that is really useful about the online version is Power Q&A. This will be more beneficial after the official release of the Power BI dashboards, but you can still use it now. So if I jump to my team site, we have an Ask with Power BI section. Start typing a question, and from here if I start typing what I want to see in my sales, it's going to pull directly from one worksheet, and I can change and show from a different worksheet if I wanted to. And from here I can see my sales by my account number. So these are my customers. This is AX source data. Customer groups with the highest sales. So that is my sales group with the highest sales. So from here I can continue typing in questions. But from here I'd be able to click on specific items and do my Power Query from here. If I jump over to my Power BI for dashboards, I can just show you exactly what it will look like in the future. So right now I have a retail analysis sample dashboard. You can see I have quite a few tiles out here. So if I wanted to see some store locations, maybe number of stores in New York, it would filter down and show me I have 1 store in New York. Maybe I wanted to see how many I have in South Carolina. I have 6 stores in South Carolina. So this data is all optimized to know what you're looking for based on your dashboards and your tiles. there's a little bit of work involved in the back end of that, setting everything up so that there are synonyms for words that you might search for. State compared to location, if it's saved as location in your source data. Okay, so that's going to be an even better feature in the future. So just as a kind of summary comparison between the two, in Office 365, the actual Excel items are going to be your PowerPivot, Power View, Power Map, Power Query. Power BI for Office 365 are the things out on the cloud, which includes your sites, sharing, having your data stewardship all in one place so everyone can see what kind of reports are being used to make sure they're up to date. Everyone's using the freshest version of the data, as well as being able to access from your mobile device and using language querying capability. So here are a few supporting links, and with that, I'm going to wrap things up, see if anyone has any questions, if you want to type them into the Q&A section. But if there are no questions, thank you everyone so much for attending today, and you can always reach out with that email address directly to me if you have any questions at all. I hope you learned a few things about what's available here with Power BI and what you can accomplish with your own organization. Thanks.